They do oftentimes tend to have some longer games, so something to watch out for. We are right into this. We went from 0 to 100 real quick here, huh? This went from game not being ready to game is going. Alright, let's get this started up. We start on Oxide, as in the bottom left side of the map will be Solar, and the top right will be Maru. This is best of 5 semi-finals, remember guys. Best of 5 semi-finals as we get this underway. And we see just what's going to happen here. Overlord pops out, going to start heading out across to the upper side of the map. Maru looks kind of intense today. Is that just me? Like, is it just where his cam is? He was like set up super straight right there. He's like, I gotta sit up real straight. I gotta micro my workers and do everything I can. Jeez, he was like set straight up. All right, well, let's see what happens here as we go into game number 1. Hopefully, these semifinals are a little bit better than the quarterfinals, because the quarterfinals really didn't deliver. And you know, I hate to say that, but sometimes you just got to come out and say it. I think Trap Serral was kind of cool, but overall, I really do believe that the round of 8 just wasn't up to par. You know, when you look at the matches that we had, you expected closer matches, and they just weren't there. It just didn't happen. So, very excited to get into this Maru Solar series, hoping that this may be the series to start breaking the playoffs apart. Hopefully, you know, today and tomorrow, semifinals, third place match, and finals really does deliver, and we get some really awesome games. Hoping that it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll just put the Twitch bets up for you guys as well in case anyone wants to do some predictions. And I guess I should also quickly say as well, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for watching on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you like the content. If you don't like it, don't do it. But if you like the cast, if you end up liking the games, don't forget to like and subscribe to come back for more in the future. Helps us out a whole bunch. Just trying to mention that a whole bunch because we're going to try and push the YouTube. We want to get 40k YouTube subs at some point this year. Fingers crossed. That is our current goal. As Reaper and a couple of Lings go back and forth on this bottom side. So the Lings start taking quite a bit of damage. One of them getting picked off, the other few falling backwards and forwards as well. And just going to be seeing a Queen popping out. That's going to go and jump on that Reaper, as the Reaper does turn it away back toward the center of the map. So Reaper pulling back here. Just keeping that alive. Obviously, you need that Reaper alive because you need to check what's going on for the Zerg player, right? You need to know, is he sending roaches my way? Is he cutting drones? You know, is he, all those kind of things. It just helps you to see an attack early game. So you don't want to lose this Reaper. He does not lose it. Of course, on this map in particular, it is one of those maps where it can be a little bit difficult to deny the initial creep tumor and so on. It's probably one of the only bad things about Oxide for Terran players, right? This initial creep tumor denial can be really tough, as that Reaper goes up to having 2 kills. That creep tumor going to spread, and there's another one placed down. Alright, so not a bad start from Maru's Reaper. A couple kills on it, and meanwhile, Solar is finally able to get his creep down to the low ground, so they're both pretty happy and, content with the current situation, I'd imagine. I don't think anyone's going to be too upset about how this first few moments of the game got going, or how it went. There's a Reaper and a couple of Hellions going to make their way down toward the south. Now, there's a few Lings that were kind of playing with the ramp there. Just kind of thinking for a moment we might see those come down, but I'm actually going to send the Reaper up into the main base, just trying to scout, and he's actually got an armory on the way up as well, by the way. So the scout, or the attempt to scout, might be more of a fake out than anything else, because if you put it like this, right, Solar's going to see no tech lab on this rack, so that might just be a giveaway. But if you're trying to show that you're scouting, it's like, oh no, what are you up to? I need to know, when in reality you're going to just attack him anyway, so maybe that's a bit of a mind game. I think in this situation, well, like I say, Solar knows what's up. Immediately upon seeing the no tech lab on a Rax, Failing Nest, Spine Crawler, and here come these Hellbats as we get this underway. It's going to be seeing these few Marines coming forward, these Hellbats chasing these Queens down. Queen's going to try and get up this ramp. I mean, again, the Spine Crawler ain't ready yet. And actually, Solar looks like he might be in some pretty serious trouble because obviously the Bane Nest ain't ready yet either. So this initial push out of Maru is doing tremendous amounts of damage, coming all the way now into the natural. However, and if that goes down, that means healing is gone. And some of these Queens are low HP, but still alive. A couple more going down at the end here now. Few are going to turn around with that Queen low ground. He gets the Queen high ground. I would say that this is probably successful here for Maru, because at the end of the day, you've traded well, you've killed off a lot of Lings. He forced a Spine Crawler as well, which had to finish and actually didn't do much. And he did kill a good amount of queens. Really nice for Solar to save that one extra queen at the end. Resources lost does go into Maru's favor. He has a third CC behind this as well. Oh no, the third CC just started. My apologies. I was being lazy. I looked on the minimap. I was like, oh yeah, third CC in the wall. Third CC just started and feels a little delayed. I guess we do have the Banshees as well to maybe try and get some damage done. Let's see how they go in the next few moments, as they'll basically be the next thing to hit here. There are more Hellions too, so there's actually kind of a secondary wave. If Solar gets a bit too greedy droning, Maru could punish with those Hellions. That also means he's going to have a good amount of Hellions to keep on the map with. But, you know, you get these Hellions, it costs you. It isn't just free to get those Hellions, right? You don't get your third CC as quickly, you don't get your extra barracks as quickly, and that's why the third CC and the extra racks are that little bit slow. Because you've invested into all of these additional Hellions, which you don't usually make, and that's a whole bunch of minerals, like I say, that usually just goes into the production structures. So, that is kind of the difference right now. As you can see, double Banshee showing up, and the preparation for this is... well, there's a lot ready, so we should have an Overseer, and right now the Banshees do get some damage done, though, so they do get a few shots off. We do have a pretty decent start to this, in fairness, as we're going to see the Ling Bane continue to gather up together. More drones going down. Yeah, I mean, Banshee's just being fairly successful in their harassment. Nothing really too crazy, right? Like, nothing really like, oh my goodness, how on earth is this going to work out, or anything like that. As you do have the Banshees now on the left side, going to get that hatchery. That's a cancel. That drone goes down, and those few Hellions back away from the Queens. So the few Hellions just backing up from the Queens right there. Well, I mean, not bad, right? Maru still can keep Solar under control as best as possible. It may be worth just quickly mentioning, as we have a moment or two of calm, just the prize money at this stage of the event. $1,500 guaranteed. But the prize money changes dramatically at this stage. It's basically $1,500 for every series you win, including, remember, there's a third place match, right? So, $1,500 for finishing 4th place. If you do lose here, you do play a third place match tomorrow, and that's $3,000 for 3rd place. But if you win the day, you're guaranteed $4,500, for top 2, and 1st place is almost $8,000. So the prize money really ramps up very quickly in this tournament. So that's something to keep in mind here, that prize money is going to be ramping up, and that, these matches really are high profile, These matches really do matter quite a bit. There's a lot on the line here. Just to give everyone, that little notification, as we do see a couple meters going down instantly. Cancel on this bottom hatch. And obviously this time Solar double expanded, so he's got the hatch off to the left-hand side, which is coming up. So you will have that to kind of fall back to if needed. There's going to be seeing 2-2 upgrades coming in on the main base now. These meters are going to fly in. Widow Mines! Oh no, Solar! Oh, his Mutalisks are just not longed for this world, are they? They are just not longed for this world. 8 SCVs go down, but the Mutalisk threat absolutely negated early game. No. 2 more go down. These Mutas have been way too sloppy. If you're going to win a game against Maru, you do not win it by losing all of your Mutalisks time and time again here. This is just not it in the slightest. This really is not it, so... yeah, this is just looking fantastic for Maru. I mean, there's more Mutas on the way as well, so Solar really wants to commit into this, but now he's essentially on his starter Mutalisk count, when he should be on a much more terrifying Mutalisk count. And that's the current problem with these last few trades, as Maru gets these Widow Mines burrowed up, playing around the left-hand side. He's going to start pushing in on the right-hand side as well. In we go as this Spine Crawler goes down. Those Overlords likely to be in some trouble. A couple Banes crashing through into those Hellbats. As we do just have on the bottom side, those Queens going down. The Overseer goes down. This Hatchery, guess what? Going down. Yeah, I mean, everything's just kind of dying all of a sudden. There's still no upgrades, by the way, as well from Solar. This is 1-1 against 0-0 for some of these fights, as Maru's trying to figure out best way to drop these Marines into the main is probably the best way. There's just one medevac. I mean, these units were goners anyway. As now he steps back. Oh, last Baneline actually gets a bit of a cleanup. Solar is going to clean up these armies. It's again just bases being lost, creep spread not being established. All of these are things which just improves Maru's position for later in this game. Right? The longer this game goes right now, the better setup Maru is going to be here. Oh no. Okay. I was about to say, if that Widowmine goes off on like all the Mutalisks again, I'm done. I'm checking out of this because that's just not fair, you know? No, it's not quite gonna happen like that. As you have these few Widowmine jobs continuing. Well, Mutalisks trying to regain control of this map. Solar's gonna be brave enough to put down an infestation pit, and I say credit to him because an infestation pit right now is what you need. You need to tech up, but it doesn't feel easy to tech up when you've had a game like this one where Maru's been in your face and being aggressive this entire time. Look at these Widowmines, by the way. Solar doesn't realize it's a 4 drones go down. Could have been worse. Pulls away now, and that just shows that he really didn't know how many mines were there. Really did not see that coming in. The drop in the natural. Now there's one Widowmine that's still chasing down workers. They just about get away, and Maru continues to control this up to the high ground. And now we'll maybe just get a Mutalisk. No, it goes off on the Zerglings. It would have been nice. Zerglings are still okay. 6 drones dead. And, I mean, okay, not bad, right? It could have been a lot worse for Solar, but it was also some lost mining time. I mean, it cost Maru 4 Widowmines and a medevac. The thing is, you do those because, you know, 6 drones is alright, but the one time you get 10 plus workers, or 15 workers, or you can just kill an entire mineral line, that's when those Widowmine drops really pay off for you, as you get into Thors, Marines, Mines. You know, looking at the supplies, I really feel like it's almost like, Wardy, why are we all shouting about Maru here, you know? Why is it that we are kind of just Maru, and not giving credit to Solar, whose supply is pretty good? And I don't disagree with that, you know, and actually, the last few moments, getting the creep spread back up, getting bases reestablished, I actually do think Solar's done a pretty good job of resettling in this game in a position that is very playable. Maru doesn't have quite the upgrade lead that he once had, although obviously Terran typically takes a lead on 3-3 upgrades, which will be exactly what happens here as well. Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong. Like, Solar's actually in a way better spot, given the circumstances of this game, than I feel like he should be. Only problem is that Solar's definitely not looking as though he's going to end this game early, right? And if you've got to play a longer game on Oxide, the immediate issue is just the amount of bases available to you. There are only 6 bases per player on this map. That's not a lot. And that just means you've got to get the job done faster as a Zerg. And that's not typically how TvT works. Typically in ZVT, you take a base over your opponent. And once you have that base advantage over your opponent, you deny their opponent's base. You can't do that as easily on a map that doesn't have as many bases. There's not as easy a chance to deny those bases because it's easier for the Terran to defend because there's just not as many, right? So it is an issue. That Widowmine hits dead center on the Banelings. That's so good. It breaks both their supplies. That happens just, I know someone's going to ask this. It happens because of some censoring issue. 163 is an important domain for Blizzard in China, and it's basically censored in the client to make sure that people don't pretend to be Blizzard employees. But obviously in this situation, for some reason it carries over into the UI just as a bit of a bug, so I know someone's going to ask it, so I may as well say, just especially as they both had their supplies 163'd or hashed out at the same time there. Couple of cool fights then, so again, Solar surviving. But just to really round out my point, you know, as Solar gets base 6 now, that's great. But can he stop Maru getting to 6 bases? For now, yes, but eventually Maru will probably get to 6 bases, I would say. And that's the issue, right? Like, you just can't take a base over the Terran on this map without some supreme control. And Solar doesn't really have supreme control of the way that this game played out in the earlier stages. So Maru just patiently takes base 5 for now, will defend that, and then eventually moves up to the top left to take base 6. And that's really where Solar will, unless he finds a way to start trading efficiently against the Terran army, which if Solar finds a way to do that, he's going to change the meta of ZVT. So yeah, unless Solar finds a way to do that, he's going to be in some trouble here as Maru's bases continue to establish. Widowmine's pushing down the side, Bio Army continuing to settle down as well. Widowmine's still going off as these forces come in, a couple of mines hitting some Banes, etc. As we do go to the bottom right-hand side, that hatchery going to be in some trouble. That is a cancel. So we cancel up that hatchery now. The Mutas try and fly in, but the turrets and the planetary fortress saying, nuh-uh, you're not getting in over here. Now 3-3 upgrades are being denied, plus 3 melee just went down, so that's a start. Now we're going to be seeing the army just pulling back, letting this Thor do the tanking as well, so the bio unit sits safely behind it. I mean, come on, 3 Thors as well. It's just one of those things which you don't see so often, and you kind of suddenly realize, oh my god, how powerful are those Thors when they get into good numbers? Yeah, pretty powerful. So Widowmine's doing a bit of friendly fire damage, but the Thors are melting Mutalisks. And now a few Banes do get through, but the Thors still, I want to say, stand strong. Not all of them do, but they're still a corner piece of this army. And there's still something that a couple of them still alive. They have been tanking a ton of damage. They're absolutely a big reason why Solar's had trouble here. Plus 3 cap pace gets denied as well. So now Solar will be behind 3-3 upgrades for an extremely long time. And we all know how much that's going to hurt the Zerg player as well. So all concern there as Lings continue to try and trundle on in, but there is just no holding this, and Maru is going to take the first game of this best of 5. Maru going up 1-0. So it looks like we get Maru's map pick, Solar's map pick, Maru, Solar, and then last map remaining in terms of the map order. So that's what it looks to be initially here as we get this settled up. Maru's in the bottom left of 2,000 atmospheres and Solar's in the upper right. I mean, immediately you can compare this map to Oxide and say, right, well, you have, as Maru's just taking a nice little drink, you can immediately just say, well, look, how many bases do you get per player here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5? Yeah, that's very different to the 6 bases of Oxide. And that's the difference, right? Like, if you can take all these bases as Zerg, you have so many chances and so much time to deny bases of the Terran, and to end the game before it becomes a mined-out situation. And that includes even sometimes taking the Terran bases when you get control of a map like this one. So it's definitely a pretty big influence. There's that Overlord. Just out of the frontier. So Solar being very safe against a proxy Rax. In fact, he's been extremely safe. Gas, pool, hatchery. And leaving the Overlord at the front to scout for anything moving in. I mean, Solar, are you absolutely just terrified of Maru building proxy racks here? I mean, I get it. Solar's actually probably, to me, one of the weakest players when he plays against proxy racks. You know, I've seen that multiple times in the past. Since you have Ling speed starting up from Solar. Ling's on the way. Just going to be seeing these few additional Lings moving down there. And again, Ling speed continuing up at the moment. I'm just going to be seeing our natural command center coming up as well. So again, a lot of setup right now. Really intrigued to see what Solar ends up doing. Like, how aggressive does he go then with this faster Ling speed? Because obviously this is a faster Ling speed. He's committed into that at this stage. So even though now it's not, you know, a proxy racks or anything from Maru, does he use it aggressively? Or does he just let it slide? I mean, Maru instantly sees, oh, you are not going hatchery first. So he's going to start pulling his Reaper back home to help against these initial Zerglings. 6 of them showing up. SCVs are being pulled as you want to protect this Marine, of course. And of course, you want to try and keep your command center building as much as possible as well. Reaper is almost home. SCVs even stopped for a second to repair each other up. And there is the Reaper. But remember, Ling speed is really not too far off because it was gas pool. And that's information Maru does not have. Unless he could tell by the exact timing of the hatchery, which it's pretty difficult to do. This is going to be second Zergling going down. Maybe 3 Lings die before Ling speed's ready. Not quite, but they're close. They're low HP. As that Ling speed, Maru doesn't quite get the target fire on the final low HP Ling. And so 4 Lings now run at the natural. There's still only 1 Marine here. But of course, those Lings are extremely low HP. And look at Maru's confidence. I mean, okay, extra Marine's about to spawn. He knows he doesn't need to pull SCVs against this. Gets the bunker up, and that was a great choice because he doesn't know if it's a Roach follow-up either. So by building the bunker, you're guaranteeing yourself a little bit of stability in case roaches are on the way. Now this factory's going to swap on over to this reactor as well. So that's going to be on our way to Hellions with 4 Marines out the front. And look at Solar, just now going to go into Overlord speed. So Solar is really concerned that Maru is going to do something really funky on this map. From being aggressive early into now just maybe some kind of follow-up. Remember that he did Hellbat in the last game, sure, but I mean, it feels like Solar at the moment is, like I say, terrified because of everything he's doing. He's just like, I just don't want to die. And maybe that's just the plan. He just doesn't want to die too early because he knows if he doesn't die too early, as that Overlord's in the middle of nowhere, he knows that, oh, but Overlord speed's ready, of course, so he actually is going to get saved. But now it's low HP, so it actually can't get in as easily, so it will still delay his scouts. But yeah, to finish my thought, maybe if he didn't, you know, his idea is if he doesn't die early, maybe he can just live to see his stage of this game. But he is extremely comfortable because, of course, this is his map pick. It is a larger map, and that, of course, could really make a bit of a difference further down the line as well, as we do see The Raven, Cloak, and Stim all on the way out from Maru, so building all of this up right now. These few Marines come in, that Overlord going to get pushed away toward the center of the map once more. Gonna see Queen still producing here, a couple of additional racks going down. We have a third CC on the way as well. Solar have a decent scout information, of course. Again, like I said, that first Overlord actually getting pushed back like it did made a pretty big difference, right? Just delays scouting a bit, doesn't have as much HP to work around. Now with this Raven out. So the Raven's kind of a unique little thing. People have been screaming, make a Raven to clean up creep for a long, long time. If you make this Raven, a lot of the time you go to a higher Hellion count. In this case, we are not going to a higher Hellion count. With the higher Hellion count, the Raven's auto turrets can usually combo up, and then you actually get like a really strong push going. That's not quite going to be the case this time around, it seems. So, going to be a pretty comfortable number of units. As we have got the drones continue to produce, melee upgrades still on the way out. And a lot of setup still just happening as we get going. The Lair's on the way, so going to be melee upgrades, then the Lair. So Solar's obviously, whatever he scouted early is giving them the confidence to go Evo Chambers, then Lair, right? And that's important to note because a lot of the time nowadays, Zerg don't take that risk. They do just say, right, Evo Chambers, after Lair. Upgrades, a secondary here. But this time, no, upgrades are going to be the primary setup for Solar. And again, you can kind of do that because you've invested into the scouting so much, so then you've got to consider the fact, well, while you are taking that kind of, while it is nice to get your melee upgrades early, you did have to kind of pay the cost to get those early safely. Yeah, just going to see that CC going to fly out to the third base as our medevacs are going to pull out to the far right-hand side. Looks like they're going to join up with the Hellions, of course. Power of keeping these Hellions and the Raven alive so long is that now you've got this extra power in your push. Solar at the moment, 40 Lings on the map, just now finished morphing in 10 Banelings. With the later Lair, there's no Baneling speed here, though, so this first push is kind of scary, because the Terran army is not up against upgrades, and it's not up against Baneling speed. So the Zerg doesn't have one of the two key things they usually utilize to help defend these attacks. And yeah, this base is in a little bit of trouble. I don't think it goes down, though. I don't think you get that much time to really damage it. That auto turret's interesting from Maru. Maybe could have held off on placing that, but actually, nope. Solar's going to go in with this, so yeah, there's the melee upgrades finishing right. But look at what Maru's doing, letting the Hellions get so much damage done, and I mean, that was not a good fight for Solar, right? He just ran straight up headfirst into Hellions in a choke point for a little while. That is not going to help you out in the slightest. Because now all of these Marines are going to unload, and they're going to stim in, looking for, well, Lings initially going toward a Queen. Queen goes down, the other Ling's in some trouble. Now those Banelings just going to go waddling forward as well, as those Marines of Maru are going to lift back up and just go back towards the main army, which is reinforcing, and that's just beautiful army movement, right? Reinforcing and then being able to bring your drop out of the attacking position into the reinforcements. It's just really powerful move, because now you've got everything powered up here. You've been using all of your units basically all of the time. Solar's going to launch a big counterattack, and that's one thing Maru is not set to deal with right away, although units do show up pretty quickly. Not that much of an issue. Maru's now already back over here, splitting. Still has Hellbats, dropping an extra order turret, and the wall over this base is finally going to go in Maru's favor as he gets the kill on this hatchery. That's what he's been playing for a little while here. Now, Solar has the top side base as a replacement fourth. However, that base does not have any creep spread in front of it. Maru's just going to quickly scan up there and check what's up. He's actually going to drop in the main base, and Solar don't see that. He is not moving into position to deal with this at all, so Maru probably going to get at least a couple kills here. I mean, actually, Solar got the Banes up pretty quickly. The Banes are blocked by the Queen. Now those Banes are running through a choke point once again. This time, they don't get punished so heavily, but definitely cause for concern. There's a few more Banes going to connect in. We see a lot of Ling Bane coming down and chasing down SCVs. These couple Marines doing what they can, getting surrounded now, though, and getting cleaned out. Rest of these Banes coming through. The Lings surrounding. SCVs still dropping. Marines still dropping. 7 workers killed. As it's just going to be seeing the Lurker Den on the way up. So Lurker Den coming through. few more banelings just on the way up over here. So just going to be seeing our 2-2 upgrades finishing up from Solar. So getting those 2-2s underway is going to give Solar a little bit of an upgrade lead actually for a while. So Maru behind on upgrades, and credit to Solar once again. You know, it feels like Maru's having a lot of momentum, having a lot of wins, but Solar's really keeping up in supply. One thing I do worry about is its equal worker counts. And usually the Zerg would like to be like 10 ahead, just because the Zerg armies are a little bit less efficient, so you kind of want to be mining more. But Solar's at a point now where Hive is up, Lurker Den is down, and this game could absolutely slow down a whole bunch right here. And that may, I mean, that's generally what you want to have happen as a Zerg. Get this game slowed down, get your Lurkers out, and then play from there. The only problem is when you slow down a game against Maru, Maru kind of says, okay, let's play late game. And that can be pretty terrifying in its own right, as we do stim in quite a few drones on this top side. A Queen injects. There goes the Raven, by the way, so it stayed alive for 10 minutes of this game, which is not bad going for a Raven. Got a lot of auto turret casts off, etc. throughout this, and definitely held at different points. These medevacs do not want to split, apparently. Now they will. Parasitic Bomb, just that guaranteed damage over time. And now these medevacs are all extremely low. It's going to be tough to get something done with these, as Widow Mines are going to help out on the right-hand side of the map. Maru knows he needs to try and get something done with these units because the medevacs are sitting ducks. They're going to go down to another Parasitic Bomb, if nothing else, sometime soon. So he knows that that's a problem he has to be addressing, as indeed he does just, you know, drop into a position that's, you know, if those medevacs are better HP, I don't think he drops there. I don't think he sees the need. Hey, look at Solar. 200 supply almost, and Maru is sitting at 160. Really feels like Maru has just not had the last few moments of this game go his way. You know, these drops have been picked away at, and, well, I don't think he dies to an attack right now. I think he's got the numbers to hold on. It does sort of surprise me, because, again, it felt as though those initial trades from Maru were really, really great. It felt like he was being very effective with his army movement and his dropping and just fighting over that base. But yeah, Solar's been doing fantastic at surviving, teching up, and is into this stage now where he's got Lurkers up, they've got their upgrades, and he's going to start getting aggressive with them. Maru with a large army across the map. He's going to instantly cancel the right side base. He's going to make a move for this top side hatchery. The drones pull, but they don't really pull away, so yeah, they have to be a little bit careful too. Yeah, letting the Widow Mines do a lot of the initial damage here. This Bioforce, it's going to lift up, probably drop the main base again, right? Because more than anything, as he actually kills off that hatchery, more than anything, he wants to buy time where Solar just isn't attacking him, and these Lurkers out here kind of on their own. They are going to go down as we drop the main, just Zerglings. The thing is, it's funny because once you get to this stage of the game, you kind of forego a lot of the Baneling production because you're like, well, I've got, you know, I've got Lurkers for my splash damage, but in situations like this, when the Lurkers are out of position, that's when the Terran player kind of has a good time, because then if there's no Banelings, there's still just Zerglings trying to fight bio units, and yes, the massive Zerglings will get the job done, but a lot of the time you don't have the massive Zerglings, or at least not right away. We got back into here, Maru just again trying to be as annoying as possible with all of these drops, trying to get anything and everything out of each and every one. Moving around that left-hand side, this medevac super low HP. We'll see if he can even begin to successfully drop one more time. I just leave it here for a while, right? I mean, an alive drop is a threat, so it's not a bad thing to have on the map. Anything that can threaten the Zerg that little bit will typically go a pretty long way. I don't mind just sort of keeping that for the moment. Now this Bioforce has to run away. Ling Lurk is going to go running for it, and we do see a quick little hop up into the medevacs, and once again, Maru just using the mobility of his army more so than anything else here. Just consistently moving around, dropping around, just trying to find any possible opening to keep the damage roll. Now there's a Parasitic Bomb going to land onto these medevacs as well, and yep, you just have to drop. I gotta say, the Parasitic Bombs have done really well, because they really have forced Maru into so many drops he doesn't want to quite commit to. So the Vipers defensively are actually really working out for Maru, for Solar. Because now he's going to try and attack into this position here again. Massive choke point. The tank's going to try and hold this spot. Is it working out? Is it doing enough? Well, not really. These Lurkers are going to get to advance on forward, and it looks as though Solar is going to start overrunning Maru on the bottom side of the map here. And Maru just doesn't really have many options left over at this stage, right? He is kind of down and out. His units are being destroyed. His base has gone down. he never really got past 4 bases as well, right? He never quite got to base number 5, so yeah. I think one of the things for Maru here too is that he's at a stage where he just needed a few ghosts, and I saw the Ghost Academy come up quite recently. I was going to mention it, but other things are going on, those drops. I really do just think that those ghosts were maybe just a little bit, a tad too late for Solar attacking up. And Solar's going to be able to win this fight on the bottom side. We tie this series 1-1. Maru getting good starts, but Solar having great comebacks. That's what this series looks like going into game 3, 4, and 5. Again, we're guaranteed to at least see Romanticide, considering this is a best of 5 and it's 1-1. Hashtag did the math. Let's get this started up, shall we, guys? Solar, Maru, best of 5 continues right here in the NetEase Esports X Tournaments SC2 Masters 2021 Season 1 Semi-Finals. I know, it's a mouthful, but I'm proud that I've nailed the tournament name. I only get to show it off like today and tomorrow, and then this tournament is done, right? So, you know, then having learned the whole tournament name is once again useless. So I'm using my newfound abilities while I still have them, while I still have the chance to use them. Alright, game 3. Again, Blackburn as a map really does stand out to me as, you know, this kind of Terran map and so on. It's a good push down the bottom side, and it's kind of got a similar issue to Oxide, where how many bases do you get? 6, and then the 7th base is kind of that, you know, top side, bottom side base, which is not easy to hold for anybody. But that's then going to prefer the Terran over the Zerg, unless the Zerg can take a lot of control over the map. So I like it early for pushing for the Terran, for dropping for the Terran, and split map, late game, I like it for Terran too. And one of those bases of the Zerg is exposed from the other side. The gold base is really hard to keep alive and keep mining because of drops as well. Like, there are just a lot of things that stack up in Terran's favor on this map. So, one thing we have seen Zerg do on this map, though, roach pushes have been very effective. There's a fairly open area around the 3rd base and the low ground areas in general, so that is something which can be effective. And lurkers can be effective on this map too, because they also have that kind of pushing effect. And once you get lurkers up, you can maybe use those lurkers to use the main pushing direction of the Terran, or to defend that direction. And once you're defending there, you're kind of just set up a little bit for the game, you know? So, yeah, I mean, like, it's not all about the Terran. While a lot of the things do favor Terran here, don't think that this is just a guaranteed Maru Map 3 win. No, it doesn't work like that at all. Just very quickly as we get going, guys, just want to say again, thank you so much for tuning in today. Just want to make a quick mention, because I'm sure this one's going to go up on YouTube. I already mentioned liking and subscribing, but very quickly, that we do obviously cast a lot on our channel, and if you do want to support, one of the best ways to do so actually helps us to support our events, patreon.com/WardiTV. If you check out the Patreon page, yeah, 100% of what you pledge there goes directly into our WardiTV tournament prize pools. And while this isn't a WardiTV tournament, we do run some big events. We just announced our $8,000 WardiTV Summer Championship, and that's all thanks to you guys supporting via Twitch subs or just Patreon subscriptions. Like I say, anything that goes on Patreon, 100% of it goes into prize pools. So please check that out, because I know it's a good way for a lot of people watching on YouTube to support. And like I say, I know this one will be going up on the YouTubes. Just wanted to take a quick chance to mention that. While we don't have too much happening early game, right? 3rd CC is on the way up, so Maru really is just playing a nice standard opening this time around. Solar isn't doing anything crazy. This isn't a gas pool hatch this time. This is just hatch gas pool. It is link speed at more regular timing. There just doesn't seem to be any aggression on the way from either player just yet, so we really do have a pretty peaceful first little bit of this game, basically. Gonna see the hatch finishing up on the 3rd base location, and as we do see the queen popping out of the natural in just a few moments time. Again, a couple Hellions here from Maru, just the standard. He's gonna go Viking off the starport as well, so even that is just kind of deny information, put Solar in the dark, but not really give you like a strong push or a strong attack on the way. You know, it doesn't do anything along those lines really, so yeah, kind of across the board really is just a nice little stable opening. There's a fusion core on the way as well from Maru. So that's maybe why you go Viking, right? To deny this information. Maru's going to be seen putting this starport onto the tech lab. So Solar sees that, but he doesn't necessarily know that that is then a BC. Or maybe he does. He swaps to a Lair Rotron right away. I think Viking into starport on the tech lab is a bit of a tell for the battlecruiser, because if you go Banshee, who goes Viking into Banshee? That's not really a thing because usually you just build the Banshee right away. Whereas with the BC, you have time to build a Viking because obviously you're essentially waiting for the fusion core to finish up anyway. So yeah, I feel like that is a bit of a tell to Solar, and I'm a little bit sad that Maru kind of put that Rax starport lift up happening so soon because it didn't need to happen right there either, you know? He could have maybe faked Solar out a little bit more. Whereas now Solar's like, oh yeah, I kind of see what you want to do. And like I say, like Lair and a Roach Run is the right way to handle this because you want Roaches on the ground to deal with any Hellions. And you get the Lair up because you want a fast Spire here to go into an answer to those battle cruisers. The biggest question is going to be, is this mech or is this bio? And there's our answer right away. As that Rax lifted off, it's going to be more factories. So it really is the perfect solution here from Solar. It's exactly what you want. And especially with the Lair up and a Spire on the way, you definitely want that too because this will be more than one battle cruiser if Maru's going to play mech. Typically, there's going to be multiple BCs. Usually, you get Yamato as well. And that really is where you just need Corruptors to deal with it. Like, one BC, Corruptors is overkill to deal with, right? Like, you don't want to spend the money on them. But against multiple BCs, they're kind of like the battlecruiser attacks, right? As well, these Hellions are going to dive by this mineral line. They were getting a few Lings already, and I mean, they get in for 5 drones. Can they actually fight their way out of this? They might be able to, a couple of them slip away. 3 get out? Okay, not bad. And in a game like this, you're going to keep on building Hellions anyway because you're playing mech. And so because of that, it's not actually as influential losing those Hellions as if you were playing bio because you still have more Hellions to act as your kind of, you know, run by defense, etc., you know? Okay, so, what happens then? So, we get ourselves established. Yeah, I mean, we start up and we basically see... What else was I saying just before I got carried away with those Hellions? Battle cruisers, you're going to see multiple... Oh, yeah, the battle cruise attacks. Yeah, the Corruptors basically, obviously, the way the BCs end up working later in the game is that you make 10 or 12 Corruptors to deal with the BCs. You fly in, the Corruptors start fighting the BCs fight the Yamatos, and the BCs teleport away. So you just lose, like, 3 Corruptors every minute and a half or so. And that's just like what I like to call a BC tax. And it's one of the ways that the Terran can be annoying. It can force units and supply into something to deal with the BCs. And it just keeps the Zerg from ever being overly aggressive because they've got to spend the money on those Corruptors. They can't go all out for an attack. Obviously, they could go for like a Corruptor Roach attack. But then the BCs can get mass repaired at home and stuff. So as long as you hold the ground, the SCVs survive, the mass repair goes off, etc., etc. So yeah, that's one of the powers of the BCs when you're playing Mechia and having multiple of those battle cruisers up and running. 9 drones going down, 7 from the BC, 2 more from those Hellions that dove in, as we are just going to be seeing an additional BC added in. Yamato's going to be done soon. Right now, you're not going to go teleporting these BCs across the map anymore because Corruptors are out. The last thing you want to do is teleport into the Corruptors because then that BC would be a gunner, would go down pretty much right away. In this situation, what you want to be doing is using those BCs to fly in, like I say, Yamato the Corruptors, and then teleport the hell out of there. Why don't Zergs use Burrow to dodge Yamato shots? Well, I mean, you could, right? It's just like, you have to get Burrow. That's expensive at this stage of the game. And then later in the game, the Yamatos don't even go off on, you know, Queens and stuff so much as they go off on, like, Corruptors. And if you know there's Burrow, you just don't Yamato like Queens. You would just, you know, Yamato the Corruptors, right? And the Corruptors are going to be there because you still need the Corruptors. So, yeah, unfortunately, the Corruptors can't dive bomb from the sky into the ground and burrow. That would be pretty sick, right? Burrowing flying units. Bit OP, but would be pretty sick. Maybe it's a Hive Tech upgrade. Flying Burrow. Your flying units can now dive bomb into the ground. Why 3 BCs and not just keep building them? Some people like to keep building them. It's a question of cost, right? 3 BCs are very effective at Yamato, and get out of there. And it's really like that balancing kind of line of like, okay, if you get 3 BCs, you can get a good amount of Corruptors each time. The thing is, you don't force more Corruptors with more BCs a lot of the time, right? You know, in this case, Maru is going to go for more BCs because I think he wants to play a more defensive game, or he doesn't feel the need to be, you know, having as much on the ground defensively because it's just a safe defensive map. So you just sometimes cut the BCs to afford more on the ground because once you get to a certain amount of BCs, the Zerg doesn't really need more Corruptors to get the job done. They're going to trade out the same no matter what until you get to, like, mass BC. But that obviously takes a while if you're building one at a time, and so you've got this, like, window of weakness where you just can't really do very much because you've just mass BCs and you don't have a ground on. Like I say, on this map, it's much more defendable, And so maybe you get away with less ground army, hence we go this time 4 BCs, but it looks as though that's where Maru's going to draw the line as well. 3 or 4, same kind of idea, right? You force the similar amount of corruptors out anyway, and then the job is done. That's what they're already there for. And yeah, I think hopefully that's a good explanation for it. Hopefully it was understandable at least. Like I said, I was kind of intrigued because Maru was continuing to build more this game. I thought, well, maybe he does just keep slowly adding those BCs on, but obviously he got to a point, he got to 4 and he was like, yeah, 4 is the right amount here. We're just going to be seeing those Lings, Roaches, and Ravages coming through, knocking down the rocks already. Opening up the map, obviously a good thing for the Zerg, as here we go. Just going to see these tanks going to be lining up already. A couple of models go down, and now these BCs have to teleport away as those Corruptors continue to push them back. And this is where this Grand Army of Maru really has to hold. These Corruptors continuing through, and you can just see one BC already dropping. Maru went into these Cyclones. The problem is Cyclones on the defense, they only have so far they can kite to, and they really are units that rely on the kiting. So the one thing I see that's a problem for Solar is that he is just running low on HP, so the extra tank shots really will start doing a lot. And while Maru's had this base pushed back, it's not like that's his 4th base, that's his 5th base in this game. And now those Cyclones getting lock-ons and finding value. What a dodge on those barrels to stay locked on as well. He had to squeeze up the top side. This fight's actually a really good example of why you don't want more BCs, right? Because if you'd built more BCs there, you saw the BCs were already having to retreat to this Corrupt account. The 1 or 2 additional BCs doesn't change that. You kill a couple more Corruptors, yes, right away, but you don't really kill more Corruptors beyond that. And so the Zerg will then just have more ground army while you have less ground army, and the BCs aren't able to join the fight because they'd be running into the Corruptors. So a pretty good example of why you don't really want more BCs, just as we're on that discussion point. Here we go again from Solar, but this time around Maru seems to be in a little bit of a better spot initially. Now the BCs are starting to be a little bit better off, and the Corrupt account really is dropping off as well. And you can see these Cyclones are able to come through and get a lock-on to push back the rest of these Ravagers, and that is going to be a massive hold here from Maru once more. He is down a few workers, that's fine, that's kind of where you're meant to be at this stage of the game. And he's, he's down a bit of army supply as well, but he's also playing mech against someone who's still just building Roach Ravager Corrupt, and only just now are we seeing that Hive on the way to really tech up to the next stage of this. So Solar's game plan, I know a lot of people are like, well, why doesn't he just get in Vipers? You don't want Vipers right now, because Solar's game plan wasn't to tech up to Vipers. If he wanted to do that, he would have done that, 5 minutes ago. His plan was to max out and to fight and to try and break Maru as he came forward to these extra bases. Now he's realizing that isn't maybe thoroughly working. He has got that Hive on the way for Vipers as a backup plan, and that, of course, will help you fight. Of course it's going to help you fight, but the initial plan was to try and break Maru early rather than having to tech up and go later game. So now he's going to tech up a little bit later on this, as you do see these BCs flying through once again. Do you add Thors into this composition? You only really want to add the Thors once you get into, like, Broodlords. The Thors are really good against the Broodlords. They can work against the Corruptors as well. But until then, the Thors are very slow building and expensive units as well. So again, it takes away from that ground army, right? So typically the Thors are a bit of a later addition once you're secure on the ground and once you know you actually really have a use for them. Now, these BCs, they've gotten rid of the Corruptors, and what that means is that now they will be a guaranteed defense against the Roach Ravager. And the thing is, this is the problem with this map. While Maru is being pushed away from this forward base, he's just expanded to the upper right, and Solar hasn't done anything over there to really stop that happening or anything along those lines. And again, for Solar, having to rebuild all these Corruptors time and time again is expensive. Now, Greater Spire will finish, and Broodlords will likely come into play, and Maru might not be ready for them. He might not be building Thors. But still having the BCs means that if he can just win the fight against the Corruptors with the Cyclone support, he then still has an answer to the Broodlords and the BCs. It's not as an immediate an answer because you've got to go through the Corruptors guaranteed first to really fight the the Broodlords there. So it's not as guaranteed of an answer or as fast of an answer as the Thors would be. But it will be something at least, so just keep that in mind because Solar is going to get Broodlords and it might seem like there's not a great answer to them. But there still is a way for Maru to make it work out. It is nice though, because Solar's really kept so much aggression up that I think Maru doesn't really believe in the idea that he could possibly be teching up behind this. Uh-oh, BCs have teleported back, right? So that 2 teleports are on cooldown. Suddenly 2 BCs go down. Now there's only 2 left. Now Broodlords might be a real genuine problem here for Maru because now he just doesn't have that Battlecruiser count to reliably get through the Corruptors. Even if there's less Corruptors because they're morphing into Broods, this does get a little bit concerning, I think. What's going to be seeing the Ling Road Ravager coming through those rocks, taking some hits. The Cyclones and the tanks kind of wanting to come in as well. Got a couple of lock-ons, and just going to be seeing the rest of these Corruptors showing up. I mean, the Broodlords are here. Lots of Cyclones on the way. The problem with the Cyclones is if you can get locked on with the Cyclones, brilliant, but a lot of the time you don't get that chance because of the Broodlings, right? And that's why Cyclones are just not going to be a reliable answer to this. But it really is like the go-to, I need an answer sort of thing. He's now starting 5 Thors. Maru immediately realizes, uh-oh, Broodlords. I do think a lot of this is just Solar's being so aggressive. Maru did not quite believe he could possibly be teched up to the Broodlord stage of this game already. But here he is, the Broodlords are on his front doorstep, and Maru maxed out, but not quite with the right army just yet. Now he's got some time. The Thors are building, and it's going to take Solar a little while to start really pushing his way into these bases. If he can get these Thors into the fight, take down a Broodlord or 2 along the way, he's getting some Queen transfusions used up already thanks to the Cyclones. Maybe he can just about do this. These Thors are spawning. They just have to run down this ramp now. They just have to get involved. Can Maru hold on and keep everything alive for long enough? SCVs are desperately running through, trying to, I believe, repair the BCs, which will teleport away from trouble. Here we go. I mean, the Thors should be showing up right now. This is going to be the moment where we find out if these Thors can get the job done. The Broodlords are still advancing, but look how fast they're going to start falling as the Thors start to fight. The problem is some of the Thors are fighting Broodlings, not the Broodlords. So that's an issue. Maru losing a lot of supply, and Solar not even have to rebuild that much. Roaches on top of the Thors as well. They're not protected by anything else at this stage. And Solar looks as though he's going to break Maru's natural expansion as everything is more or less going down. There's a few Corruptors left. A couple BCs might try and hold. The problem is so much damage will be done before 2 BCs clean up this army. And that just means that you're not going to be in a playable position at all at that stage. Maru alive, but barely, and Solar has free reign over the top side of this map and the bases on it, being able to deny all of these. He's even taking the 12 o'clock base because Maru's had no pressure on this map either. Solar has got this game in his hands, and it is absolutely just down to him to just close this out at this stage. I mean, it's basically impossible for Maru. I don't want to be super negative, but there just isn't really much you can do in this situation. You need an extremely good fight. And that just ain't going to happen because there's just too many units. Like, Solar can do a lot of A-clicking here if he wanted to, and would probably be okay, although 4 tanks in this ramp are actually going to do pretty well. Teleporting the BCs back. Maru trying to give himself some hope in these dying moments. And Solar just says, yeah, okay, well, maybe that was a bit over-aggressive, but who's the guy with 82 drones and who's the guy with 43 SCVs? I'm the player in the advantage here, so even with a bad trade, I can just rebuild and get ready to go again. Files down a Thor as well. An extra little punch to the gut of Maru as he probably contemplates GGing out of this game. In fact, there it is, right on cue. Solar takes the lead in this best of 5 against Maru. An excellent game of... and especially in the fight before the Broodlords came out. The BCs teleported away from harassing the gold base, and Solar's like, oh my god. The BC teleports are on cooldown, and if the BC teleports are on cooldown, he knows he can take a fight and take down a couple BCs, and that immediately just made those Broodlords even stronger once again. He could justify having less Corruptors on the map because they're morphing into Broods. I thought that was a really cute little moment as well. Definitely helped him with pushing this through. Top left-hand side, our blue Zerg player is Solar. In the bottom right, our red Terran is Maru for map number 4. Quick question, why don't we see more mech at the pro level? Didn't work out, but looked pretty powerful. Usually the way that the mech cycle works is that someone comes up with a new way to play mech, like slightly different, like, slightly different build, or slightly different opening, or slightly, something just a little bit different to what you usually see. And that gives you a really good way of getting into like a powerful mid-game position as the mech player, and then mech is good. The problem is, as soon as the Zergs or the Protoss or whatever figure that out, and they're like, right, you like to do this, this is how you get into your good position, we've got a good answer for it, then they can do a lot to stop the mech player from getting there, and then mech is just that little bit weaker. It's great if you can get set up, but even in this game, right, Solar kind of knew what he wanted to do, and he kept the trades going, and eventually just kind of, got Maru on the ropes. Maru was never really stable in that game. Otherwise he would have had more counterattacks, he would have had more map control, he would have had more activity with the Cyclones. All of these things. Maru was never in control because Solar knew even if the trades were bad, he knew what the pressure he was putting on was going to give him. As long as he didn't trade too badly that he could be counterattacked and wiped out, and he slowly had that plan of teching up. So yeah, I think, I mean, that's why, basically. That's how mech works. You just kind of have to have a good build to get set up into the mech, and then, yeah, and then you go from there. I think a lot of the thing is there's just a lot more potential. At the very highest level, there's just so much more potential with bio as well. Because even if you're even in a mech game, there's only so, like, there's positioning and there's movements you can make, but a lot of the time it's just, oh, I'm more relying on what my opponent's about to do and defending that and eventually winning. Whereas with a bio play, there's a lot more chance to also outplay your opponent, outposition them, outmaneuver them. It's a lot faster paced, so you can try and out-multitask, harass. That's something which mech can do if it's in the right position, but not to the same extent for sure. So bio is almost more reliable in just being able to kind of open your own doors, right? And to open your own access points to later stages of the game and to better positions in the game. So yeah. Mech's just, I think the big thing is mech's just very figured out, right? It's very figured out, and so the Zergs know what to do against it, and there's only so much potential with mech to work against the fact that the Zerg know how to deal with it. Zerg also know how to deal with bio armies. But, you know, you can work with your bio army to take advantages even when the game is even. Whereas with mech, you're kind of like, oh, he's doing the right things, I'm just going to sit back and defend, and it's just tough, you know? There's like a real cutoff point. I think, like, even, like, the lower ends of GM, like, probably up to, like, 6k, 6.2k MMR, I think mech is, like, super powerful. I think a lot of people will have a lot easier time improving with mech than they will with bio. But there really is, like, a cutoff point at the very, very top where the skill level is just, like, capable of playing bio to its max potential. And that's the point at which you're just like, oh, I see. A lot of the power I've seen mech mixed in, I know we're on a bit of a rant, but this game fairly standard. There's a medevac on the way up. So a bit of harassment coming in from Maru, a bit of aggression. But very quickly, just to finish off my final rants about mech, I think one of the things about mech really is there's the Armory 2 to confirm we're going to see some Hellbats. One of the things about mech as well is sometimes it's nice just to mix into a best of 5, because then it keeps your opponent guessing, has to keep your opponent scouting. And if your opponent goes the wrong tech choice and suddenly you're playing mech instead of bio, that can just be a very quick way to win a game as well, right? So how many times we've seen Zerg players suddenly be on a Lingbane Mutacomp in the mid game against a mech army, and then you can't transition, you just have to try and play that out. So yeah, definitely useful in a longer series as well as a way to mix it up and to keep things moving along. Alright, enough about mech, because this game absolutely is not mech just yet, but it is going to be a Hellbat attack. Solar's Overlord with speed obviously got to see this, and he's getting the Baneling Nest prepared. It's not going to quite be in time. Oh, this is a really bit of a different way of doing it. Drops the Marines on the left side, is going to run the Hellions on the right, where there are a limited amount of Queens and just a few Zerglings. This does mean the Hellions, A, aren't Hellbats, and B, on top of that, they are, they're not going to get healed at all, but I mean, it kind of works, right? You clean out well with or you clean up the Lings pretty well, and then you've got a couple drone kills. Yeah, it wasn't amazing, but it also wasn't the worst thing we've ever seen. Especially considering Solar was getting to be somewhat prepared. I feel like this gave you more of a chance there as Maru as maybe some of the other styles would have done. I believe that Medevac's still alive on the left side. I believe that's the few units that are sitting on the 4th base of Solar at the moment. So, I believe he did, yeah, keep these units alive too. So, still has everything to work with, and now probably just looks to use this in a later game as Drilling Claw is going to be up very quickly here. So, we're going to be seeing at least some intention of playing Mine Drops. And then from those Mine Drops, we're going to have a Bio follow-up as well. So, that's where we're going right now. Hellions are still active on the right side. Important to keep these Hellions alive if you're going to go into the fast Widow Mines, because it's obviously double factory Widow Mines too, so you've seen 3 Widow Mines at a time. Your bio count is going to be very slow to build up, and that means you don't have a lot of defense on counterattacks, etc. You just don't have a lot of units on the map. So in this case, it's really important to still have these Hellions here, because they are going to provide a lot of the coverage to make up for the missing Marines that are delayed by your choice to go for such fast Widow Mines. Lots of Lings and Banes on the way out. Melee upgrades coming through. The Baneling speed is on the way up, and ready to drop these 4 Widow Mines through into the natural expansion. So in we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sorry, I just I just had an instinct to move the camera down to see that first Widow Mine shot. So sorry, I just put my mouse on the clean feed. I was like, no, go look at it. Widow Mines on the right side are going to get so many more kills. My goodness, 18 drones are dead. And of course, remember that you need overseers to clean these up as well. You need the detection, but 18 dead workers. And guess what? There's another Widow Mine drop already arriving. And Solar, the problem is once these Widow Mine drops start doing damage, you fall behind trying to catch up dealing with them. And then they get more damage done. Like, it really is one of these things that adds up a lot over time. This time we just hit Queen, so this one not as successful. And Solar is starting to stabilize a little bit. But 7 more workers went down to the other side. And that's just the multitasking of Maru working wonders against Solar at the moment. Of course, there are costs to this. Definitely in the situation of, you know, melee upgrades being so much further ahead than the bio upgrades. But of course, you're hoping that you can just do so much eco damage. Solar's basically doing nothing but building drones right now. So when Maru's first push arrives, it's very likely... Oh my goodness, 6 more. It's very likely that Maru shows up and there's just no units out because A, the economy has been slowed, and B, the economy that you've had has been basically spent on rebuilding workers. So, yeah, 4 more Widow Mines drop in. 12 kills now in recent times. 1 more is on this high ground as well. Well handled by Maru to try and... well handled by Solar to notice that. He actually almost ran some drones into it in the end anyway. He's going to burrow up the Lings! Just get the kill in time. Well, this is now, what, like about 30 kills? Sorry, I think maybe even 40 drone kills in this game already. I'm not sure if it was 28 and then 7 more happened, or it was 28 then 12 more happened, but 35 to 40 drone kills this game from Mines, and obviously Maru gets a 3rd base behind this. His army supply is already telling the story here. 74 to 49. The advantage that Solar will have is going to be those upgrades, and he's already just going to say, right, I'm playing a defensive game here. You're not pushing me, so I'm just going to try and go hydrogen and infestation pit, and I'm going to try to get to lurkers. But that's going to take a little while still, and I would be surprised if Maru didn't push with 1-1 and combat shields. And then if Solar is just being overly greedy for the current situation, that's why he's going to get punished and punished hard. Those Hellions still alive from earlier too, now acting as Hellbats. Going to be a nice little tanking force moving up toward this 4th base. Bane start morphing in. Let's see what Solar can do defensively against a 30 army supply lead of Maru. Widow Mine still dropping over here. He still has to go deal with that. That's maybe going to give you the chance to distract, and it's maybe going to give you the opportunity to really set up over here properly. Though Solar is not distracted. He jumps on this army right away. It looked like Maru was the one that wasn't ready to fight right there. So yeah, Maru believing that he was going to be able to take the initiative as Solar defended Mines. But Solar quick enough to say, nah, I know what you're trying to do here. Jumps on him. And Maru's army supply advantage has just sunk down to a 10 army supply lead, which was once 30. So that is kind of costly, as we are still working around this left side. Units are going to come in for the surround, though. Maru's going to start lifting up en masse to take these units elsewhere. So we're going to start bringing these up to the top left-hand side of the map. I'm going to move through with the natural expansion, and I mean, they could drop in the natural. They could also move through to drop in the main base. Absolutely a couple of different choices in that one as these Widow Mines burrow up. Lings, drones taking some shots. Now we've got this one Widow Mine in the main going to come through, drop down as well. Rest of these Marines and Medevacs on the left-hand side, and just trying to, see one Widow Mine again getting cleaned up. Just going to be seeing the Hive is going to be finishing soon. The Muscular Augments on the way. And a Lurker Den on the way up from Solar as well. So just getting that Lurker Den up and running. There's all of our additional Lings coming through. If he can get to Lurker Viper, brilliant. First he has to get there. I mean, Upgrade Leader right now should help him survive to that stage. Maru's kind of doing what he did back on 2000 Atmospheres a lot, right? Like a lot of big drops, a lot of moving, like a lot of medevacs around with Marines and Marauders inside. Got a tank supporting this little push in right now. Is he continuing to build tanks? He is continuing to build tanks. He's actually building tanks and Widow Mines, which is a really scary combination. Because the way you want to engage versus tanks and Widow Mines is different as a Zerg. Against tanks, you kind of want to engage all at once in swarms, so the tanks can only hit so many things at a time. Whereas versus Widow Mines, you kind of want to lead in with a few units, set the Widow Mines off, and then get ready for the big fight. So the combination, if you can control them correctly as a Terran player, can be pretty deadly. He's on 3 factories for it. 2 Widow Mines at once and 2 tanks at a time. And he's going to go into Ghost Academy as well. Obviously, in general, Widow Mines are going to get phased out of this game as you start playing against Lurkers. You do just kind of want to be on tanks in general. As Maru just going to pull it back here. Widow Mine hits a lot of his Marines. That's a pretty good Widow Mine on Solar's side. Let's see, I'm trying to support this siege tank as best he can. A few of these Banes being targeted, but it's time to lift up and leave Maru. Of course, he's paying attention. Do we expect him not to be? No, of course we don't, as this bottom left hatchery goes down as well. And we're going to try and make our way up towards this base. There's a lot of queens here to try and buy some time. Widow Mines are going to burrow up. Let's see what they can do. Bit of a mixed bag of results in those Widow Mines. They had some queens that hit some lings. Nothing really major. And at the end of the day, Maru is once again pushed back in another position. Feels like right now Maru's losing a lot of supply trying to make these attacks and drops happen. Needs to be careful he doesn't lose too much all at once, otherwise that could be very, very scary for him. Those Banes and Lurkers settling down in the center. Those Vipers are going to consume up the hive a little bit, get some extra energy going on that. As those few siege tanks coming through, and just going to be seeing again the medevacs returning back over to the right-hand side. The Marines are going to get rid of that hatchery, so it's going to get cancelled up as well. And the medevac going to get brought up to the top. Bane Force kind of wants to continue on here. Is just going to be seeing a couple Banes going through. You know, it's going to lift back up. That Widow Mine somehow didn't hit the dead center of those Zergalians. So Solar kind of gets away with the Widow Mine shot not being as deadly as it could have been. Thing is here, Solar starts up double Nidus. He's going to try Nidus around the map to deal damage. Maru is really settling down sensibly and happily into the late game. He's got plenty of CCs building. Ghost on the way out. Yeah, I mean, this one could absolutely be the game that starts going that little bit longer and really delving deep, deep, deep into the late game here. Let's see what plays out as we do see more Lings, and Lurker's going to move through this bottom side. Tanks firing. Lurker's taking a lot of hits. The Ling's going to stream on through. Bane's coming in as well. Bioforce going to try and fight. Other Widow Mines power up. I'm just going to see the rest of those Banes crashing in, but honestly... kind of hard to say. I mean, Solar rebuilds a lot right away, so while Maru's supply does drop down further, remember that his production works in such a way that his supply just climbs back a little bit slower. It'll take a while for Solar to get these Lings and Hydras out on the map, morph in Banes and Lurkers as needed, and then attack again. By then, Maru's supply should be back on track a little bit, so... Tell you what, the resources lost is actually pretty even, and for being pretty even on resources lost, that typically means the Zerg is having a very good time. You generally want to be ahead on resources lost as a Terran player. As we've talked about in this series, it's been, one of those situations where if resources lost is ahead for you, then, the Zerg needs more bases, etc., etc. That's how ZVT works. As this attack comes through, we do see Ling Bane Hydra pushed back. Now, on the bottom side, these Niduses are going to get off. There's a few ghosts here. Going to need a scan to deal with that. At the same time, Solar's attacking, so Maru can't put the attention everywhere it needs to be, and he is dropping in supply quickly. But ghosts are coming through with a few snipes. He doesn't have scans for Lurkers. The Lurkers are taking so long to be dealt with. In the main base, Lurkers are going to show up again as well. Solar has money but isn't spending it all right away, as this will be a cleanup eventually. Just taking a little while over here. Another Nidus on the low ground. Again, with two Niduses, it's just that extra little bit of firepower to really get rid of them morphing in. Just takes that a little longer and can just give you a little bit more success at times. Yes, a bit more expensive, but in this stage of the game, I think the expense is something you're kind of willing to kind of see at this stage, as Bane's on the left, Ling Lurker on the right. And as these Nidus is continuing through, and I like this one splitting it up a little bit. Now the Nidus on the low ground probably gets through here. I like this though. A couple Vikings going to get rid of an Overseer. And just getting rid of the potential vision that Solar is using to place those Niduses down. Just making sure that that is not a thing any longer, as Ling Bane Lurker moves through. The Lurkers are going to burrow up. A planetary fortress is dead. I mean, at this situation, right, Maru is actually being bullied around the map. Like, Solar's doing a fantastic job of moving Maru's army where he wants it to move to. Now we're going to go diving down over here. Blinding Cloud on a couple of tanks, and these Banes just going to come crashing in as well. I got to say, Solar's played an excellent game. He's played a really, really good aggressive game from the last few minutes. He got up to where he needed to be after all of that Widow Mine harassment early. Don't forget, Maru was literally 30 army supply ahead, ready to fight, and Solar said, no, I'm not going to let you run me around, silly. I'm going to jump on you when you don't expect me to be jumping on you. Kept himself alive and got himself to this stage of the game, and honestly, since he got Lurkers up, what he's done is fantastic. Like I said, just aggressive at the right times, really just bringing the fight to Maru. And I think this is what you need to do against these Terran players, just bring the fight to them, as Maru's just never been able to stabilize in the late game, right? He's got a Ghost Academy up, he's got Ghosts on the way. You know, he's had a few Ghosts going, but he just doesn't have the bases up and running. You know, he doesn't have the bases kept alive long enough to make this work. I just spawn in on the bottom left again. I'm just going to go running through. The Ghost going to cloak up. Widowmine's hitting the Ghost, so they're going to be low HP as Lurkers burrow up on top of them. Solar making the play. Does he have enough to win this game out right now? There's Hydra's backing this up, but there are still Ghosts sniping. The Lurkers are dropping down. Solar is going to be pushed back. Maru will hold again, but each and every one of these holds becomes more and more difficult because his work account is so far away from what it needs to be. Some Bane's just going to show up and run forward and get a few more units. Maru, 45 SCVs to 90 drones. His army supply is starting to slip behind the Zergs, and that means it's going to be so difficult for him to win these fights. I think we're starting to see Solar be in the grand finals of the NetEase Esports X tournaments. Yes, we are. Maru types out GG. Solar bounces back from that first game where Maru looked amazing. And actually, honestly, I just gotta say, like, Solar just really looked good this series. He played a really, really good best of 5. He handled the different styles of Maru very well. He knew what he wanted to do. His aggression was on point when it needed to be. GG. Solar takes it 3-1 in the next semi.